Uh, the Russian election is over, and two things that should not surprise you. Number one, that Vladimir Putin won very easily, and two, that his adversaries all call it a fraud. Let's all. Hello, Garland Nixon here, and so you by now you know the score. President Vladimir Putin ran again and clearly won again. And one of the things I'd like to start by saying is this: it reminds me of something that happened in the United States, and the dynamics were almost identical in some ways. And that is, I've talked to people in the past who's like, Putin, no, he's whatever. Why the Russians like him? And I say, you have to understand something. As a reference point, FDR, Franklin Delano Roosevelt, he came in during the Depression. He came in when things were looking really bad, when the situation looked hopeless, when people were hurting, and the economy improved under him. And he went through World War II, and he got the U.S. through that, and et cetera. And as a result, he had to die to get out of office. He was never, FDR was never going to lose. He was never, ever, ever going to lose. People saw him as a person who delivered them from economic pain, right? He won, what, 4 times? And I've said, if you understand, I could get into it in detail, but I'm not. But when I talk to people, what I say, if you understand where Russia was, the lost decade in the 1990s, they were in very bad economic condition. They were, the sick man of Eurasia, I guess, right? Their country was broken and poor. The neoliberals were there, just having their way with Russia, stealing everything that wasn't nailed down. The people were hungry. They had nothing. There was nothing. In fact, I had a friend of mine who is Russian, lived in the Soviet Union during that time, told me that they had an aunt or somebody that worked for 3 months, and they were a municipal employee, whatever the case may be. They worked for the government. They worked for 3 months. At the end of the 3 months, they didn't have anything to pay them. They gave them a huge, gigantic bag of soap, and they had to barter and things like that. It was very, very difficult times, and the people came to realize, so those were people who said we were far better under the Soviet Union. They had a stable life under the Soviet Union. Then the Soviet Union, decided to made a decision. People say it imploded. They made a decision that they were going to go in a different direction, and the people suffered greatly, and that's why a lot of people longed for the Soviet Union. Okay, but here's my point. They were in a bad time, extremely bad time. People were starving. They had no stability. And he came in and he turned things around. And now their economy is, stronger than ever. They're growing faster than ever. And they're standing up against the world's hegemon, right? Toe to toe, fighting them toe to toe and winning against the entire West. And so they're proud, they're living better, and they're proud, and their economy is growing, and their adversaries' economy, their attackers, as they see it, their attackers' economy is wilting. So of course people would support him. It makes sense. But of course, it's clear to see that, in the West, oh, he robbed it, he stole it, my God, it was, but as a former law enforcement officer, former investigator, I like to look into evidence, right? One of the things I like to look at is evidence. Now, evidence isn't everything. Some people say I go by the facts. There's more. Facts can be manipulated by people. Facts can be misinterpreted by people. So there's more than just facts. But let me give you something that I think substantiates the win. It substantiates the validness, is that a word? Validity of President Putin's win. And it's from the U.S. News media. That's what we call media. Let's take a look here. So as you know, he had got like 87.7%, something, 87 point something percent of the vote, total an absolute blowout. Now, the West will say he had little competition. Yeah, but I mean, when you know the guy's going to, well, who's going to run against this guy? Why waste your time, right? But at any rate, let's move. Let's take a look. Watch this. So it's a fraud, it's a lie, it's a cheat. He got 87% of the vote. Oh wait. This is from the New York Times. The date is March 31st, 2022. So it was just after the special military operation. Faced with foreign pressure, Russians rally around Putin, poll shows. 83% of Russians said they approved of Mr. Putin's actions, up from 69% in January, which is still pretty good. Joe Biden would be lucky to get 6.9%, according to an independent pollster in Moscow. So they're citing an independent pollster, independent, according to them. He's got 80%, right? Let's look. President Vladimir Putin's approval ratings have reached levels unseen in years. The New York Times, keep in mind, according to an independent poll released on Thursday, as many Russians rally around the flag in the face of mounting international pressures. 83% of Russians said they approved of Mr. Putin's actions. Some observers believe polls in Russia do not reflect public opinion accurately, with people giving answers they believe are socially acceptable, but they are widely considered useful tools engaging that. So they're like, oh, well, I don't know about those polls. Some people think polls, I don't know if I can believe them, but you know, that's all we got, right? Let's look at this. Let's look at the poll. Let's click on the poll. Let's look at the poll. Oh, you can't. Okay, we'll go to take it to English. We're going to go here. We're going to take a look at the poll. Share screen. Let's look at it. So here we have the poll, right? Right there. Okay. In March, the share of those who believe that things in the country are generally going in the right direction increased significantly, 69%. From 52. The share of those who believe the country's moving in the wrong direction path was 22%. In February, it was 38%. So his numbers really, really took a turn after the special military operation. And you look down there, approval of Vladimir Putin's activities increased 69% in January, 71% in February, 83% in March, and thus reaching the level at the level of the end of 2017, right? Do you generally approve or disapprove of Vladimir Putin's activity as president of Russia? They got prime minister of Russia. I approve 80%. I don't approve 17%. And no answer 3%, right? Look at this. 01-24. So that's 02-20. Look at this. Okay. February of 2020. So that's 2023. But look at the latest poll. February of 2024, according to this poll, 86% of the people approve of him. So this is a poll that says 86% of the people in Russia approved of Vladimir Putin, right? Okay. And he got 87%. Now, if the independent poll says 86%, and he gets 87% of the vote, how can you say there's anything wrong? Nothing could be more consistent. As a former investigator, if I looked at that in an unbiased manner, I'd say that makes perfect sense. Your poll, and if we go down and look at the poll, it even says, this material is produced and distributed by a foreign agent of NO Levada Center or concerns the activities of a foreign agent. In other words, that's in Russia, and Russia's saying it's from people outside of Russia, which means it's going to be the West. That's what it means. It's going to be a foreign agent. It means it's going to be U.S. empire stuff. So they're saying February of 2024, Putin had 86%. President Putin, I approve 86%, don't approve 11%, no answer 3%. Okay? So here's my point. How can the West run around and say, well, we know how, but yeah, I'm making a point here. Vladimir Putin stole it. Vladimir Putin's the people are afraid, blah, blah, blah. When an independent poll, no doubt paid for by their own people, almost identically within a point and a half or so, well, let's just say 2 points. This man gets 87 point something percent, and they say it was stolen. Really? It was robbed. It was criminal. Really? And what did your poll predict? Well, my poll predicted 86%. So apparently, Putin used all of these shenanigans to get like an extra 1.7%. I've seen articles that said they had men with guns. Let's go to this. Watch this. Let's do this. Let me find one so we can just see what we're looking at. Putin. Let's see what kind of crap we're getting here. Putin election. Let's go to news. Okay, White House. Let's look at this. Here we go. White House. Russian President Vladimir Putin election to fifth term was preordained. It was, and that nothing was free or fair. Nothing about the election outcome was unpredictable. I would agree. Sullivan noted Putin had locked up his political opponents. Really? And who would that be? And that some had died tragic deaths ahead of his week's election. Who? Most prominently, opposition leader Alexei Navalny. Well, wait a minute. Now, Navalny was in jail. And he was in jail. Initially, what was he in jail for? He was in jail for him and his brother embezzled $300,000 from Yves Rocher, which was a French cosmetic company. Interesting. And the best he ever did was 2%. 2%. So he went murdered a guy for 2%. So what? He got 87%. You mean he got 87 point something, 0.7 or something. So he says say 88%, and he was predicted to get 86. So he had to kill Navalny because you had to get that other 2%. The difference between 86 and 88 is tremendous. So he killed Navalny because Navalny was able to get 2%. Right. This election was not something that met any kind of benchmark of being free or fair. Well, wait a minute. So here's what we got. And see, this is what that I wanted to put forward. The New York Times linked me to a poll that said he had 86%. They had an article that said he had 83% directly after immediately after the special military operation started. They then linked me to this poll. Just so you know, for anybody who needs to see that poll. The New York Times links me to this poll from the Levada Center. And this poll says right here, I approve. February 2024, he had 86%. So according to the New York Times, the poll that they link us to, he had 86%. But the election was not free or fair. And they say it was preordained. But you could argue that if a man's got an 86% approval rating, the election is pretty much preordained. Let's face it, he's going to win. What's interesting is Venezuela is having an election, I think, in July. President Maduro. The U.S. has already admitted that he's going to win. Now, why do they have to admit that? Because the people in Venezuela overwhelmingly are going to vote for him. That's what. Same thing here. Last thing I saw, I think Maduro's approval ratings were in the 60-some%, right? 60-some%, right? So bottom line is, I've been to Venezuela. I've been around there, and I've talked to people, and I understand what's going on in Venezuela. Got a good feel for that. And the people support. A lot of people don't know this. He was Hugo Chavez's second in command, former bus driver, and he's like Hugo Chavez is a saint to a lot of people in Venezuela. They refer to themselves as the Chavistas. I've had people say to me, "We are the daughters. We are the sons and daughters of Hugo Chavez. Literally, those words to me. We are the Chavistas. We are the sons and daughters of Chavez. In the same way that Americans use the metaphor of the family as government metaphor, right? We are the founding fathers sending our sons and daughters to battle, right? That metaphor of government as family, and that's what they do in Venezuela. And Hugo Chavez is like their father, the saint. We're the sons and daughters of Chavez. We will fight for our democracy. We will defend our democracy. We believe in revolution, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, hey, I'm down. You ain't got to convince me. I'm down. Revolution. Let's go. Viva la revolucion. Wait, somebody grab me a file so I can sharpen up this here axe, and sharpen my pitchforks and fire up my torches. It's time for revolution. I'm the man. Let's go. We got guillotines that got to be dropped, right? So I'm like, hey, he ain't convinced me about revolution. I'm the, that's my middle name is Revolution. But anyway, all jokes aside, so they've admitted that he's going to win. They've admitted that Maduro's going to win because that's who the people want to win. But here's the bottom line. As soon as he wins, they're going to go, he was cheated. It was the crookedest election ever. He was up to no good. And, this is horrible. And the U.S., where's Juan Guaido? We got to get Guaido back and get him in there, because the people who, at one point, I think 81% of the people in Venezuela didn't even know who Juan Guaido was. And the U.S. said he was the rightful president. I mean, I guess, you know what they might as well do? They might as well say Juan Guaido is the rightful president of Russia, not Putin, because they're trying to do it with Navalny's. Navalny couldn't muster 2%. Now they got his wife, another traitor, and they're like, yeah, she's going to take over the mantle where Navalny did. Come on, you know what I mean? Is this propaganda for us? Because the Russian people don't give a crap about that. But at any rate, so here we stand. Putin's win, as I have showed you, aligns with the Western polls. Exactly, precisely. If you got a poll that says this man has 86% approval rating and he gets like 87.7% of the, don't try to say there was anything wrong with that. You predicted with your polls very specifically that he was going to win, and by how much, and that's how much he won with. Go home, take it. Take the hit, put your head down, eat that one. You're done. You predicted it, he won, but they can't do that because it's not their nature. I don't care what happened. I don't care what the Russians did. They're going to say he shouldn't have won. It was a ripoff. Why? Because that's the rules-based international order. The only people that have a free and fair election is the country right now that charged the leading opposition candidate with 96 charges. Suing him for everything. The Biden Department of Justice, think about this. The Department of Justice is going around coming up with every charge they possibly can against Donald Trump. They're using every manner of lawfare, every machination of criminality they can to take out Trump. Yet, for some reason, our election is free and fair, and that darn Trump. Look, nothing's free and fair about our election. Republicans, Democrats. Let me. In fact, I did an interview today, and I was talking to a conservative person, right? And she said to me, "I'll give you an example of how screwed up our elections are here. Why we got no room to talk about anybody." So she said to me, which was the conservatives, that's what they push forward, but she ran into a brick wall with me. She said, well, Garland, there's a problem in the United States and people aren't required to have elections. Aren't required to have identifications. And so people should be required to have identifications. Don't you think they should? And I said, I'm glad you asked that. I do. As a matter of fact, let me tell you what I can tell you from my experience of overseeing elections in Venezuela. In Venezuela, when you turn 14, the government gives you an ID with your picture on it and your thumbprint. When you go to the polling place, you hold up your ID, they look at it. They got a little thumbprint machine. You put your thumb on the machine, and when you do, a picture of your ID pops up. They can see that it's you. They can see that it's your proper ID, and your thumbprint brought it up, so they know it's you. No way to cheat, and you get one when you're 14. And let's just say, for the sake of argument, you lose your ID. You go there, you put your thumb on the machine, thumbprint, and it reads your thumbprint. And what do you know? It pops up a picture of you, so they know who it is. Excellent. The government gives you a free ID, so poor people still have IDs. You have to pay for it, and use your thumbprint, so they know. You can cheat a lot, but you can't cheat your thumb. Great. There you go. So Venezuela, they know what's happening. They know who's who with that. Okay, great. I said, but here's the problem I have. I said, the people all too often who are arguing for an identification are not arguing in good faith. They're not arguing, hey, we want to know who it is because we want a free and fair election. Let me give you an example of why I say they're not arguing in faith. In a country, let's say Texas, various states. And here's what they do. You got to have an ID to go to the polling booth. Okay, all right, all right. We'll allow a hunting license. But if you're a student, we won't allow a student ID that's issued. You know what they did in Pennsylvania when they first started that? They said, we won't allow, if you are in Philadelphia, where a lot of Democrats vote, right? If you're in Philadelphia and you work for the government, work for the city of Philadelphia, and you have a government issued ID, yeah, we won't allow that, but we'll allow hunting license, fishing license, blah, blah, blah. So what they do is this. People who are more likely to be conservative, such as people who hunt, will allow that. People who are more likely to vote Democrat, such as a student, we won't allow that. The truth of the matter is, if all you're concerned about is a government-issued ID, then any government-issued ID is fine. But the fact of the matter is, they're not arguing in good faith. If you're arguing in good faith, if you're really concerned to make sure that people vote, then you got to say the government has to issue everybody an ID so we know the ID's good, the government-issued ID. And you use that for voting, and we can do things just to make sure that everybody has it and nobody has to pay for it, because that way, even if somebody's homeless, hey, they're an American, they're constitutionally allowed to vote, everybody gets that ID, everybody's allowed to vote, and you can do the thumbprint or whatever you want if that's your claim. But if that's your claim, why would you set up a system where one guy can vote with a hunting license and another guy can't vote with a student ID, unless you had an ideological plan? So I made the point to her, I'm fine with it, as long as you get rid of these ideological plans that want to exclude certain people. And the problem in the United States is our entire voting system is screwed up. Even if you did IDs, our voting system is totally screwed up. You go to a country that, into a state like mine that has 23 counties, guess what? You got 23 different ways of voting. No, more, because then you have Baltimore City, you have Annapolis, you have various cities, incorporated cities and townships. They have their own way. You can have 33 ways of voting. There's problems here. And the people here are not arguing in good faith to fix the problems. They're just trying to find another way to jack the people who they don't want vote. And there you have the United States. There you have the dysfunction here that gives us no room or no right to talk about other countries. Now, let me move on. So Vladimir Putin, well, here's what's interesting. They go into this thing and, oh, Vladimir Putin, you know what they were going to do. It was about regime change. We're going to get the war started. Then we're going to give massive sanctions. And then, oh, isn't this just wonderful? Our plan that has never worked is going to work this time. The Russian people are going to get upset. And they say, you know, we'd far rather have the somebody that's going to come in and bring trans bathroom bills and stuff like that than we would have Vladimir Putin. So we want the West. And so they were going to throw Vladimir Putin out on his behind, and they were going to bring in Schultz or Rishi Sunak or somebody to run it. Joe Biden to run the place, right? Yeah, like the Russians are that stupid. Pretty smart people, tell you the truth. And they know better. They don't want these idiots. So what happens? Let's just say their plan went awry, as it always does, because these people are idiots. And now let's turn this thing around. Vladimir Putin won with 87, might as well say 88% of the vote. Olaf Scholz has like 14, 18% approval rating. He's exactly almost the opposite. He's upside down from Putin. Let's go to Sunak. Sunak's party, I don't know if you know what just happened with George Galloway, but he won like 90 million%. He got more votes than his opposition combined. The Tories, Labor, and an independent candidate. Put all three of them together, and he got more. Galloway got more votes than them in a particular election. If Sunak runs, other than friends and family, he ain't getting nothing. Much. How do you think Macron's going to do right now when he's running around saying, "Yes, we've got to send these baguette-eating sons of bitches that we're going to send them right through the Russian border to all be killed immediately, to be, for Fab 1,500 and Fab 3,000 bombs to drop on them and turn them to to mulch." That's our plan. 76% of the French say, "Nah, we don't like that plan, buddy." How do you think he's going to fare against Marine Le Pen or anybody else? Not well. Schultz is toast, done, finished. Him and his whole pathetic crew. Macron, guillotine, he's done. Sunak, they have no respect for him. They'll have him serving drinks. They will have that guy serve. He's rich. He'll have to go back to his pool. They got no respect for him. They got no respect for him. The people in charge have no respect for him. And the people who are the Brits look at him like, you got to be freaking kidding me. This clown, he's nothing but a puppet. He is a puppy. He is a stuffed animal. He is a plaything for the ruling elite. Nothing more. He's a placeholder. They stick him in there and they say, everything's going to hell. What do we do? Hey, let's get Richie Sunak. We'll put him in there. When everything goes to hell, we'll just say it's his fault. Just like they did with Liz Truss, who's, sharp as a furry marble. They stick her in there. Everything goes to hell. Oh, she's bad. They stick Sunak in here. Everything's going to hell. Oh, it was Sunak. No, it's the system. The ruling elite are doing what the ruling elite do. They're driving their own countries into poverty. And so Schultz is done. Sunak toast. Macron history. Biden yesterday news. What, Biden? If Biden won, he wouldn't know it. If he won, he wouldn't know that he won. They tell him that he won. If he loses, it doesn't matter. If Biden loses, it doesn't matter. They can say to Biden, congratulations, you won. Yay, yay, yeah. Can you take me to give my speech? They could take him like into the bathroom and stick him in front of a mirror and say, yeah, you're on TV, give the speech. Oh yeah, I sure look good. In this, they could stick him in front of a mirror and tell him it was a monitor. That's your monitor you're looking at. He'd believe him. What does he know at this point? He's done. So you got Biden, who's going to loot. Now, they're doing everything they can to stop Trump. But unless they JFK him, which I wouldn't put above him, Trump's going to beat Biden. Let me tell you something. You think Trump ain't going to beat Biden? Let me tell you something. Maybe something that people haven't thought about. Can I give you something? You know me. I always like to do the math. So there's this infamous TikTok ban thing. And what they're saying now is it's not really a TikTok ban. It really is. I have to do a video on that. It really is just another method that they can use to censor people and have control of the social media platforms, right? I mean, let's face it. Europe has no major social media platforms. The US has most of them. The only other country that has major social media platform is who? China with TikTok. They got WeChat, but that's at home. But China with TikTok, right? So the US is saying we can't let anybody other than us have a major social media platform because we use that for soft power. We use that for censorship. We use that to get all the data from people. So we got to steal that. So they say, all right, here's what you're going to have to do. You have to shut down TikTok, or they're planning on passing this law that says if TikTok doesn't shut down within 6 months, well, if sell to an American within 6 months, it's got to shut down in the US, which my understanding of TikTok is that most of their business is all over the world anyway, that I think they'll lose 16 billion, but they made 116 billion or something last year. So they ain't going to go out of business if they leave the US. Okay. But here's what I have to say about that. So, let's you give a date. Let's say April 1st. Let's say April or May, whatever, right? It might have May, whatever. Let's say the date starts in May. And the law passes is as of May, the US says to TikTok, you got to sell within 6 months or you're shut down, right? Okay. Well, the young people a lot of people are not going to be happy about shutting TikTok down. A lot of people. That's going to be very unpopular amongst the young people. Let's do the math. May. And let me add this. I've been reading, and what I've been reading lately is it'll be extremely difficult in 6 months to put together a deal of this size. So it probably won't happen, which means 6 months, and we're going to count those 6 months. 6 months from when this thing passes, TikTok was shut down. So let's count: May, June, July, August, September, October. October, an extremely popular platform, highly, highly popular amongst the young people, goes down. It goes dark. What else do we know about TikTok? We know that Donald Trump is opposing shutting it down. Don't shut it down. I wouldn't do it. Now, he gives his reason, and his reason being, he says, oh, there are a lot of people like it, and it'll drive everybody over to Meta, and Meta's the enemy of the people, which it is. All the social medias are the enemy of the people. But let's go on. October. Does anything of consequence happen in the United States in November? Joe Biden, unless things change, unless he drops dead of old age, has a stroke, whatever the case may be, Trump's plane goes down in a remote wooded mountainous region as things happen. But let's just say, for the sake of argument, things continue as they do. In October, like 68 million Americans or something like that are on TikTok, and most of them are young. Weeks before the election, TikTok goes dark. And those young people are going to be furious. And they're going to say, Joe Biden, you son of a bitch. I'm on TikTok every day. I love TikTok. I enjoy it. I met my girlfriend on TikTok, or wife, or whatever. I have a blast. I'm making money. A lot of people making money. I'm making all of this money on TikTok. I'm doing all of this. You bastard. And you shut it down weeks before the election, where you need votes from young people. And there stands Donald Trump. Hey, Donald Trump, how do you feel about TikTok? I don't think we should get rid of it. In fact, and you know Trump's going to say this, if you elect me a few weeks from now, one of the first things I'll do is bring back TikTok. I will fight for you, young people. Joe Biden and those people all along have been trying to get rid of TikTok, and I've been saying, nah, we shouldn't get rid of TikTok. So you go ahead and vote for me, and I'll make sure that I bring TikTok back. That's the first thing I will do, is I'll give an order for TikTok to come back. I will fight them tooth and nail to get TikTok back up. Believe it or not, he'll get the TikTok vote. I mean, how stupid are the Democrats that they're going to shut down TikTok, and they're going to say 6 months from now, which is a month before the election, we're going to shut down the most popular social media platform for people under 30 in the history of this country. I just don't think it's a wise move. I'm just saying, I don't think it's a good move. I'm not on TikTok, but then again, I ain't 30 or 25. And I guess if I was, I probably would be, but I'm not. And I've seen stuff on TikTok that I enjoy. And I probably should be on TikTok because I'm in the media and I should be there. And lots of people I know are on TikTok doing their thing, and I probably should be, but I'm not. But I disagree with the government getting throwing people off TikTok, but which, you know what that's all about. It is about the war, two things: the war on China. The United States wants to be the only country that has social media platforms. They don't want China. Nobody has them but the U.S. and China, and the U.S. wants to throw China out. It's a technological attack on China. And might I add, a certain country who will go unnamed, but it borders on Syria and Lebanon, the Mediterranean, is upset because of these young people are unhappy with the actions that it's taking against the Palestinians, and these young people are voicing their oppositions on TikTok, and therefore they've gone to their puppets in Congress and said, get rid of TikTok. So now, due to people in opposition of genocide and apartheid, due to the technological war on China, due to the national security state wanting the ability to censor and control everything that we say, all of those factors come together, and the Biden and the neocons and then the Republican neocons are all getting together saying we got to get rid of it because of China. China's only a part of it. But it's just another thing to show, as I'm saying about Biden, he ain't winning. One more nail in the coffin, and that's a big nail in this fathead's coffin. He ain't winning. I don't know what they're going to do. They're going to have to try something slick. Otherwise than that, they're done. So my point is this. I get back to this. Biden said, what did he say? Remember when he was in Poland? There's no way that man can be allowed or to be remain in power. Blah blah blah. Isn't that? Remember the Assad must go, the infamous Assad must go curse, and all the people that said Assad must go are all gone, and now Putin can't be allowed to stay there. Putin's got to go. Well, guess what? There's time before elections in some of these countries, but I will guarantee you this: after the next elections in certain countries, Sunak will not be there. Schultz will not be there. His governing coalition is going to be in trouble. Biden will not be there. You know what I mean? Macron will not be there. The people who are all saying that Trump is a done for and that Putin can't possibly win. He's cheating. He was going to lose. They blah, blah, blah. Not only are they going to lose on the battlefield, not only are they going to lose diplomatically as countries around the world say, we're done with you guys. We're going to be friends with Russia and China. Not only are they going to lose in the information war, because everything they predicted is crashing. They're going to lose politically because they're going to lose their jobs. They're going to be out of here. They're going to be done. That's what's coming. Vladimir Putin won, and his adversaries are going to lose. And, I don't know how people feel about it, and I don't really care. I do, unlike many people, I do really believe in democracy, and I believe in the kind of democracy wherein we have an honest discussion about the issues, where the people of every country have a right to choose who they want. I'm a far left guy. I'm a lefty. I'm and I don't mean the trans bathroom bill kind of lefty. That's not left. Right. I am a person who views politics through the lens of economic class. I'm that old school kind of lefty. Right. But as an example, in Hungary, or was it Hungary or Viktor Orban, who's a conservative. But guess what? I've said all along, they said, oh, Orban won. I said the people in Hungary have a right to vote who the hell they wanted. And if they want Viktor Orban, leave him alone. They got it right. I don't have to agree with his ideology, but I'll say this. In hindsight, here's what I can say. Orban is concerned with the people in his country. He wants to look out for, he wants to, he takes seriously his duty to act in the best interest of his citizens. I don't care what your ideology is. That's a minimum requirement for a leader. So he's a right winger. You got this new guy in Slovakia, which please forgive me for Slovakia, because a week or so ago I did a video where I compared Slovakia to the Baltic states, and that was an error. But at any rate, my point is this: you've got Fiesta, or whatever his name is, right? He's a lefty, an old school lefty, hails from Soviet Union communism left. That's the legacy that he comes out of, right? This guy's concerned about the people in his country and his duty to look out for the people in his country. So you have Fiesta, a lefty. You got an old school conservative like Viktor Orban, but they're both old school. They're both old school. And old school is, if you're in charge of a country, you have a duty to the citizens of your country first and foremost. So I ain't hating on Orban, whatever I think of his policies. He is pushing, he takes the job of looking out for the best interest of his citizens seriously. And that's his first duty. And I respect that. I respect Orban. I ain't got to agree with my ideology, but I can respect the man, particularly in light of what's going on with the rest of these clowns around the EU. He doesn't want to endanger their lives. He doesn't want to endanger their livelihoods. He wants to put them in a position where they can lead a safe healthy, happy life, and they can achieve whatever they're able to achieve. That's what he's trying to do. The guy with Feet's the same thing. They're like, man, we don't need to fight with the Russians. Get out of here with that. Let's just try to live our lives and move forward and better ourselves. If one guy wants to better himself in his country in a lefty way, but he's looking out for his country, one guy wants to better his country in a conservative way, and that's what the people in the country want, that's who they voted for. That's democracy. These clowns here are doing everything they can. They literally said that when Galloway won in a blowout, that was a threat to democracy. The biggest threat to democracy in the West now is actual democracy. Meanwhile, Tony Blinken is in South Korea having a meeting, and the meeting is about democracy. Let me find this. You're not going to believe this. Let's see this. Blinken, Korea, democracy. Watch this. Watch this. You're going to love this. Look at this. Blinken tells Democracy Summit that technology must sustain democratic values. What he's really saying at this Democracy Summit is technology must be used to censor and suppress the populace. Sustained democratic values means this is the way we believe things should go. And if the people don't agree, then we've got to use technology to make sure that their votes don't count, right? They want to make sure that technology sustains democratic values. Telling a Democracy Summit on Monday that, listen to this, authoritarian regimes deploy them to undermine democracy and human rights in the midst of the Gaza genocide. This lunatic is still going around the world pretending that the United States has some moral high ground to argue for human rights. Revitalizing democracy will also require us to shape the technological future that's inclusive, that's rights respecting, directed at driving progress in people's lives. As authoritarian and repressive regimes deploy technologies to undermine democracy and human rights. Somebody should have said, how's that apply to Gaza? Right? So they've got U.S. President Joe Biden first promotes the idea of a democracy summit during his 2020 campaign and has called for the U.S. and like-minded allies to show the world that democracy serves societies better than autocracy, right? So here's the bottom line. So this guy, and in the midst of the world screaming, and his own citizens by the millions are in the streets, blocking the streets, blocking bridges, occupying the New York Times and different buildings and on and on and on. They can't, Biden was late getting to the State of the Union address because people were in the street screaming Genocide Joe. They didn't even cover that. There was protesters blocking the way, screaming Genocide Joe. That Tony Blinken drives home and they throw red paint on his car and on his sidewalk, saying you've got blood on your hands. And this guy's saying he's standing up for democracies against autocracies to serve human rights. So in a nutshell, the Biden administration, the neocons on the Biden administration, have taken their tropes to the point of absurdity. And it's ludicrous. It's absurd. It's laughable that some guy slits the throats of a bunch of little children and then walks to the podium and talks about human rights. That's Tony Blinken. So bottom line is this: Americans can hear, Americans can see, Americans can understand what's going on. And come next November, Joe Biden's going to understand what's going on. He's going to get beat. Now, I'm not saying that Trump is the second coming of FDR or Vladimir Putin or anybody else who you like or don't like. They're going to scare you and say Trump's a fascist. Look, maybe he is. Biden's a fascist. I know that. I'll put it like this. If Biden's so upset and scared of fascism, then why is he sending money to guys who are goose stepping around Sieg Island and screaming Slava Ukraina? As they pass around their latest copy of Mein Kampf. Get out of here. It's all a fraud. And I think what's happening is the world understands it's a fraud. And I might add, what's happened and I've talked about this, what's happened in Russia is Vladimir Putin brought home bacon, right? And I mean that literally and figuratively, in that he delivered a lower inflation. He delivered lots of foodstuffs at a reasonable price. He delivered jobs. I don't know if you know it. One of the things that's kind of quietly going on, my understanding is that in the Pacific regions of Ukraine, the far uh, uh, um, east of Ukraine, I always get mixed up which direction I'm going. I mean, of Ukraine, of Russia, that where they don't have enough people to man factories, etc., and they're bringing in North Korean workers. They're bringing in North Korean workers because they don't have enough people. They got more work in Russia while other people are looking for jobs. They got more work than they got people. So the people there are happy, and they're voting for this guy, and he's bringing home the bacon. And again, I go to China. These same lunatics, they want to criticize China. It's none of your business. The Chinese people, 800 million people brought out of poverty. If you're poor and now you're living better, you're probably going to like the government. This is a reality of politics, right? A reality of politics is politicians got to, that's why they talk about pork spending, bringing home the bacon. People want jobs. They want decent education for their kids. They want an opportunity to better themselves. They don't want to be in dire poverty. They don't want homeless people wandering around and crime everywhere, kind of like we got here right now in the U.S. And if the government can deliver that, they ain't going to scream, oh, no, it's a communist government. Oh, no, it's this non-communist. It's a democracy. It's not a democracy. The truth of the matter is this. There can be a monarchy. If you have a king that delivers for the people, they'll be happy for the monarchy. They'll fight to the death to protect that king. History tells us that. If people have a king, an emperor, whatever the case may be, but things are going real well and they're living well and their kids are eating and they're eating and they got jobs and things are fairly stable, they will fight to protect the king. So the concept that it has to be a democracy or not a democracy, even though I would argue Russia has a far more robust democracy than the United States, and I would argue that Russia and China, that the governments of those two countries actually represent the needs of their people far better than the neoliberals in our country. They don't give a crap about us. We are simply fuel to be burned for their machine. So I would argue that if you're going to say, use the word democracy, I would abandon that word and say which government represents the needs of the people. I'd say Russia and China do a better job than we do. And then America's like, oh, well, but China doesn't have rights. Well, I don't know if you looked around lately, Dodo. We ain't got none. There's a guy recently who shared a meme about Hillary Clinton or something. They're putting him in prison. They want to send a guy in prison. He shared a Twitter meme. Let me see this. Man outshares Twitter meme. I'll find it. I will find it. Watch this. Clinton prison. See if I can find it. I think I can. Here we go. If this ever opens up. Here we go. If I can possibly get this. Here we go. Watch this. This is our robust democracy. Douglas Mackey speaks out on prison sentence for a meme disparaging Hillary Clinton. Details dawn. FBI raid 7 days after Biden inauguration. You were convicted of what they said your intent was, right? Doug Mackey was arrested, tried, and convicted over a meme. He's been sentenced to 7 months in prison for sharing a joke on Twitter about Hillary Clinton and her voters leading up to the 2016 election, right? This is America. This is, China, they have no rights, and Iran, and this country, no rights. What rights do you have? You're on Twitter. You're goofing off. You're sharing memes. We've all done it. I hate Hillary. Boom. Hello? Yeah, this is the FBI. We're coming in. We understand you shared a Twitter meme. Yeah, I kind of really did. I shared a Twitter meme. That's it. You're coming with us, dude. You're going to prison. It's going to cost us About $100,000 a month. That's what it costs for a prisoner in federal prison. So we're going to pay $100,000 a month. We're going to pay $700,000. You and me, and if you're Americans, right, to put this poor bastard in jail because he just happened to be doing just like we're doing. He hates Hillary just like we do. He shared memes about Hillary just like all of us have. All of us could have been sitting in here doing whatever you're doing, sipping a bourbon, smoking a joint, I don't know, whatever it is you like to do, minding your business, shaking your kid on your knee, and the friggin' FBI comes busting through the door. Freeze! Hit the hands in the air, grab some real estate, drop it, move, 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 move. And they're going all around, they're grabbing. Oh my God, what this man do? He shared a meme on Twitter. They had a pre-dawn raid on his house. Guys camouflage, they're scaling up the walls, beating, breaking the windows, coming in, throwing flashbang grenades, fully automatic weapons. Okay, we've got to stop this brutal, vicious terrorist. What did he do? Oh, yeah, he was like walking down the street one day and he found a nice meme on Twitter and he shared it against Hillary. That's America. Yeah, and we got a lot of right to talk about China and Russia and Iran and everybody else and what rights everybody else have. We have none. You see, we had privileges. We ain't got them anymore. We didn't have rights. If you had rights, they couldn't take them from you. We had privileges, and they are El Gano. El Gano. Done. Serious. Douglas Mackey, 7 months. Let me see. Tried. I'll click on that, see what shows up. Bottom line is this. This poor bastard is going to jail for 7 months. He'll have what do you call it? A record for the rest of his life. 7 months in the pen. Can you imagine that? He gets out and he's trying to get a job, whatever. He had just got out of jail. Oh man, what'd you do? 7 months hard time in the Fed. Oh my God. Was it murder? Nah. Mayhem? Nah. Rape, sodomy, theft, arson? Nah. Okay, dude. This had to be bad. How many people did you kill? Yeah. Come clean. What'd you do? Yeah, shared a meme on Twitter about Hillary Clinton. People are going to be like, yeah, well, no, who, what? Shared a what on who about who. And, that's America. That's it. That's where we are, bro. So as far as I'm concerned, this idea that we're supposed to be overly concerned because Putin, by the New York Times admission, had an 86% approval rating, and he got 87.7% of the vote. We're supposed to be suspicious about that extra 1.7%. And if I'm getting the numbers off, it ain't by enough to make a difference. That's it. That's the propaganda that we get in a country where you go to jail for sharing a meme about Hillary Clinton. You got to be freaking kidding me. Bottom line, Putin won. He'll be in there, and as long as he wants to be in there. And Biden don't even know he's in there now. But come next November, he's toast. All right, let's take a look. Let's take a look and see, do we have some super chats? If we got super chats, if we not got, I remember my daughter was little, gots. You say, I don't gots any, Daddy. I don't gots any. I always thought that was funny. Gots, got with an S. So we'll see what we got. What do we got? What do we got? We got one. How about we go to Vivian1124 says, but is not Biden, but Republicans who oust TikTok. They're all together. Well, yeah, it's the machine. That's what it is. It's the neoliberal machine. It is the machine, which is Biden and the Republicans. He's already said he's going to sign it. And it was like only out of 435, I think, less than 30, maybe 36, 26, something like 26 of them said, no, it's bipartisan. They're all going to do it. Because part of it was, let me show you something. Let me watch this. Let me show you in case you might have some question as to the direction we're going in here. Why all of the AIPAC stooges did it. Here's an article. This was November 1st, 2023, long before the TikTok ban legislation. And oh, by the way, Representative Mike Gallagher, who just also happens to be the guy who introduced the bill. Why do young Americans support Hamas? Look at TikTok. And the other person who supported the bill wrote a very, very similar op-ed. So this guy writes an op-ed and it goes in all the newspapers. And he says, he's a Wisconsin, 8th District, Wisconsin. He writes this op-ed that says, people support Hamas because of TikTok. The other woman, who is the co-sponsor of the bill, who introduced it with him, wrote almost an identical article. Ooh, Hamas, TikTok. And then they come out and say, TikTok's got to go. Why all those people there supporting Hamas. In other words, they oppose genocide. And all the Democrats and Republicans voted. Now, do you understand why they all voted along with it? Because Benjamin Netanyahu and his crew said TikTok's got to go. We got a bunch of young people in there saying we're against genocide, get rid of it. And they're all like, okay, it's gone. But it allows them, it aligns with the neocon technological attack on China. It also aligns with their wish to get full control of all of the social media platforms. So bottom line is, when AIPAC speaks, these bastards are going to jump. When AIPAC says jump, they're going to say how high. Vivian says, why do Arab countries remain passive on Palestine? That's a whole video. So thanks a lot. But that's a whole video. Remember, Arab countries aren't. The leaders of some Arab countries, the people in the street, Saudi Arabia, 98% of the people support the Palestinians. So it's not necessarily, it's not the Arab countries, it's the leaders of the Arab countries. Okay, let's look and see if we have some more super chats that we need to answer. Here's one. Tish M says, besides seeking asylum elsewhere, what are our options here in the U.S. regime? That's the question I wish. Tish, if I had that answer, I'd pack it up and sell it and make a lot of money. Then I get the hell out of here. Raphael Lagunde says, gee, why do you think Macron is acting crazy? Good question. I don't know. Macron's not stupid. He knows the deal. And bottom line is, his own military is saying, dude, this is not an option. This is not an option. It could be a long-term plan in where he says, well, that's it. Because remember, one of the things that Macron in the past has pushed for is an EU army. We need an EU army. So it wouldn't surprise me if beneath this comes out of this, what comes out of this from Macron is we need an EU army, because that's what he wants already. Additionally, the EU wants to raise money by selling bonds. It wouldn't surprise me if they use this to say, we got to raise an army, we got to do this, we got to be able to defend ourselves. Guess we'll have to sell bonds. So there's a few reasons why old Macron may be acting like he's out of his gourd. How about we go with Jorge Fernandez. First time I see your show live, but listen to your podcast on Sputnik all the time. Thanks for your work. Thank you very much. Certainly appreciate that, Jorge. Appreciate it. Thanks, Del Marie. What a cool name, in New Zealand. Okay, let me look at Rockfin. Anything in there? Ooh, we got somebody on Rockfin. Thank you, JVB. What? There's somebody. Look, there's somebody on Rockfin has to do this. Rick Simpson cannabis oil. Here's a website. So there's somebody trying to sell weed oil or something. Copeland makes a good point here. The legal language in the TikTok bill goes way beyond banning TikTok. It's another consolidation of the censorship regime, as reported by Walter Kim and Matt Taibbi. Exactly. It doesn't even say anything about TikTok. It's not about TikTok. It's just like the Patriot Act. They're using something to come up with an excuse so that they can broaden the power of government. They want to give more power to the government to stop you from being able to say what the hell you want online, giving them more ability to shut down websites, to shut down anything that's out there that says things that they don't want it to say. That's what it is. Okay, Ralliam says, why don't people understand history? The Arab nations that aren't puppets are doing that what they can to support. But the answer, Allah has shown just how weak the West is. Ansar Allah. Yes, the Houthis. So the bottom line is this. Things are working out the way they're working out, but you're right. Ansar Allah is putting foot in Joe Biden's crew in their ass, and he is giving them what for. They're giving them what for, why not, and don't do it again. They are exposing that the U.S. empire can no longer control the shipping lanes worldwide. That with a few missiles, any country, a few good missiles in drones, any country can stand up to the U.S. and give them hell. We're seeing the U.S. lose naval battles to a country that doesn't have a navy. Now, how embarrassing is that? If the U.S. empire is losing naval battles to a country that doesn't have a navy, trust me when I tell you this, they don't want to go toe to toe with Russia and China. They're losing in a big way in Ukraine, where they're putting everything they can to go against another superpower. They're losing that, and in the Red Sea, when they're going against a country that's not a superpower, that's impoverished, but it's got a few slingshots and rocks. They're losing that one too. They lost to a bunch of guys in Afghanistan with freaking Toyota trucks and sandals. Everybody the U.S. empire goes against is kicking its butt. That's the reality right now. They're not winning anything against anybody. And that's being obvious. How can you claim the only thing they're winning is the bullcrap war? Because they're full of crap. I think that's it, everybody. Well, thanks a lot. I really appreciate everybody taking their time out of their busy schedule to watch my show. That is a solid hour. Wow, isn't it amazing how that worked? All 1,103 of you, do me a favor, slam the old like button, smash that like button, number one. Number two, you see everything going across the bottom. Buy me a coffee is great. You can go in there, buy Garland a coffee, $5. How many do you want? 1, 2, 3, 5, 10, a million, whatever you want, right? And of course, you can then do just like Patreon. You can say, I want to be a subscriber and buy Garland a coffee every month. Piece of cake. Of course, you got Patreon, you got PayPal, and you got those as options. And of course, my Cash App info is there. So there's a lot of ways you can contribute to the channel if you can afford it. Go to Rumble. Please sign up on my Rumble stream, on my Rumble page, because just in case they throw me off here, you'll still be able to find me on Rumble. Somebody say, hey, Quantum. Oh, Quantum, good to see your quarks here. Also, rockfin.com/Garland Nixon, ROKFIN. Go there. You can join there. It costs nothing to be a member. Again, if they throw me off here, you can watch me there always with no, you can watch there all the time, no ads. And if you choose, if you can afford it, you can become a subscriber on Rumble. That's Rumble. On Rockfin, that's $14.99 a month. Rockfin does that because they don't do advertisements. That's the only way they stay in business. So if you can afford it, that's great. If not, just go to Rockfin and Rumble, both of them, and become members as soon as possible. Thanks a lot, everybody. Have a wonderful day. Let me see if there's nothing else. I didn't miss anybody. Peace. I will be back tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. with Laith Maroof, and he's going to update us on the Middle East. Peace. I'm out.